Hello, everybody. Welcome to Smartling's Global Ready Conference 2022. This is going to be really exciting. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be dialing in from today. This is our 2022 virtual conference. I'm very hopeful that next year will be in person or at least some sort of hybrid event. But for today, we have a wonderful, jam-packed, huge amount of information conference for you today. The Smartling team has done an incredible job putting together some wonderful keynotes. We're going to have breakout sessions. We're going to have customer panels. We're going to talk about the future of translation. We're going to talk about product roadmap. There's going to be networking. There's going to be entertainment. And we're going to have a wonderful featured keynote speaker. We're going to welcome Elif Shafak, who is the best-selling author, an inspirational speaker, and a recent prestigious Booker Award finalist. She's going to be terrific, and you do not want to miss that one. So she'll be speaking in a little while on this one. But this is going to be a great event, and I want to thank you all for attending. I'm delighted to be here and really happy that you're all here. So as we often do for these, we want to talk about a year in review. How did Smartling do last year? How did we all do together on this? Well, let's go right to the numbers. Last year in 2021, you all, our customers, created a whopping 3 million jobs, 3,000,001 to be accurate, 3,000,001 translation jobs inside of the Smartling platform. That represents 107.5 million files that were uploaded into the Smartling platform. You generated 28.7 billion API requests. You literally pushed almost 1 trillion words of content into our platform for translation, which is just incredible. Last year, we saw a year-over-year increase in professional human translation by 22%. So the content that you put into the platform year over year, a 22% increase in human translation, and a whopping 370% increase in machine translation. This is really fascinating to me, that customers are really embracing machine translation to find ways to translate more content into more languages they may not have been able to do before. Pretty interesting, pretty exciting. Last year also, the Smartling tech and product team delivered 750 new product features and capabilities last year. 750. I mean, think about that for a minute. That's literally 2 new features a day that they deployed to production. That's over 3 product and features that they deployed, features and capabilities they deployed per working day. And where did we get these from? We got them from you. We got them from our customers, our partners, our translators. You told us this is what you would like you to build. This is what we'd love to see in your platform. Can you build something like this? And by gosh, the tech and product teams delivered last year. And a final number on this, I'm incredibly proud of the fact that we've had 100% uptime for the 4th year in a row on our global delivery network, our GDN product. As you'll recall, this is our infrastructure where we are hosting the multilingual versions of our customers' websites, web applications, and e-commerce sites around the world. Huge customers that are where we're hosting the localized versions of their sites, and 100% uptime for the 4th year in a row, not even a second of downtime, which I think is pretty incredible. But enough about us. Let's talk about all of you. Let's talk about our customers. How did our customers use Smartling last year? Well, first, we saw a huge increase in streaming services. These are customers that are streaming movies and television shows and podcasts and music. And more of us are watching movies at home, of course, and listening to music and podcast on our daily walks and while we're exercising. And so streaming services saw a huge uptick in translation and localization last year. Naturally, many of us are ordering more e-commerce from the big, huge e-commerce companies, all the way down to the small companies that might have a Shopify site that they're delivering, T-shirts and other goods and digital goods around the world. We're seeing more and more of that. We're also seeing food delivery services and package and logistics and shipping services, big, huge increases in the amount of translation and localization that was being done for these types of companies. Cryptocurrency had a huge year. What a huge uptick, and what an incredible global phenomenon. Later on today, you'll hear in one of the customer panels, you'll hear one of the biggest crypto companies, Coinbase, talk about cryptocurrencies and localizations and how they work with Smartling with this. Don't miss that one. That one is going to be really terrific. Naturally, we worked with a number of pharmaceutical and life sciences companies. There's a number of companies that are building the next generation of medical drugs and treatments. And we're incredibly proud of the fact that we work with one of the largest pharmaceutical companies that is one of the producers of one of the life-saving COVID vaccines. I'm incredibly proud of the fact that Smartling has played a very small role, but a critical role in helping to get the world out of COVID as a result of these vaccines. Speaking of getting out of COVID, in the last year, and particularly in the last 6 months, we've seen a huge increase in translation and localization from our travel and hospitality companies. And I'll tell you, what that tells me is we're back, baby. Well, maybe not fully back, but we're slowly but surely coming out of the pandemic, and people want to travel. People want to see their friends and family. People want to embrace their wanderlust. We want to see those places and visit those places we haven't been to before. And so our airline partners, our hotel groups, our rental properties, our ride sharing, they are all spending a huge amount of, they're putting a lot of content for translation, localization, and preparing for when we fully come out of the pandemic, which I think is really, really exciting. The icing on the cake last year was that in December, we announced that Smartling had raised a whopping $160 million investment from our friends and partners over at Battery Ventures. This is incredible. I really couldn't be more proud of this. We've been doing this for over a decade, and this culminates a huge amount of work by the team in building the market-leading translation management system and products and services related to translation and localization. This is a monster round. When you add this to the prior capital that we've raised, Smartling has raised more money than any other technology startup in the industry by a long shot, which makes us the most valuable technology company in the industry by leaps and bounds. We're very, very proud of that. I think it also gives us an opportunity to perhaps reflect a bit, to be grateful, to be thankful to all of you, our customers, our partners, our translators, all the men and women that work at Smartling, all the people that work at Smartling. This has been an incredible ride. And perhaps this is an opportunity for us to maybe take a look back beyond just 1 year and perhaps think about what we've accomplished at Smartling. It's been over a decade since I started Smartling in my home, did a lot of the initial coding and selling and marketing before we were building out a team. We very quickly began to build out a team, but we had a vision for Smartling, and we had a vision for what translation and localization would look like over the next decade. And we made a few bets on this. And I'll tell you that, I founded this company after having personal experience with trying to localize products and platforms for several software companies and e-commerce companies, and it found it to be really frustrating and inefficient. And so we thought about what are the macro trends? What are the big things that are likely to have a big impact on this industry in the next 5 to 10 years? And the first one was that it really is a small world after all. No doubt about it. It is a small world. And certainly we've all seen that with a very, very painful and very clear example in the last 2 years, as we've all gone through the exact same thing in the last 2 years. But it is a small world, and the world is getting smaller. And whether you're a huge software company, a huge media company, pharmaceutical company, or whether you're a small company with a side hustle selling t-shirts on a Shopify site, you want to reach a global audience. You want to reach people around the world, and that starts with speaking their language. And we had real conviction, my co-founder and I, who have both lived and worked around the world, that it's not appropriate for the best products and services and ideas to be locked up in one language, in one country, in one culture. And we thought this was really, really important to embrace this world that is increasingly becoming smaller and smaller and smaller. Our second bet was that we thought that there would be a huge amount of content, and that content would be the fuel in the global marketer's fire, that content would be used to attract prospects, to convert those prospects to customers, to support customers, and to retain customers, and that content would be constant, not done on an annual basis or every 6 months or quarterly, but literally hourly, minute and minute by minute, second by second. And I think that is proven to be correct. There is a massive amount of content that's being created, much, much more than 5 years ago or 10 years ago. And when you multiply that by the number of languages, translating this content into 5, 10, 20, 50 languages, that is a real force multiplier. That creates real incredible scale. We also recognized that companies were becoming more agile, and there was a need for speed. Companies want to produce translations faster. They want to shorten the time from when content is created until it is deployed, not in one language, but in as many target languages as they want, all of their languages, to get that out in front of their customers. And so there's a real need for speed to create content, to translate that content, to deploy it as quickly as possible. Also, life cycles of content were getting shorter and faster. And so that was a real driver of speed. You put these things together, a small world trying to reach a global audience, a huge amount of content, an ever-increasing number of content platforms, multiple languages, frequent updates, many, many file formats, lots of vendors. That is a complexity nightmare. And the only way we could answer that, one of the big bets that we made was on something called the cloud. Smartling was the pioneer of the enterprise translation cloud. And, we embraced this. I'll tell you honestly, this was a hard choice. Initially, we got a lot of feedback from people saying, oh, this won't work. The translation and localization industry is different. They're never going to embrace the cloud. It's just not going to work. And we had to say no, we're not going to build on-prem installations. And we think this is the future. And this is why we think it's the future. But we're also investing in security and safety and reliability and all the things that people had concerns about. And looking back now, it seems almost silly. Every content management system, every marketing platform, every source code repository, every e-commerce platform, every document repository, they're all in the cloud. And so there is a real expectation that everything lives in the cloud, that there is interoperability between platforms, that there's the ability to collaborate. And the only way you can solve the complexity of the modern enterprise localization process is through the cloud. This is a bet that I'm 100% correct, that I'm 100% sure that we bet correctly. I'm not 99 or 98%. I'm 100% sure that we made the right bet here, and I'm very happy about that. We also embraced APIs. We thought, look, if you're in the cloud and you've got all these other cloud-based applications, they're going to want to connect to each other, and customers are going to want to be able to configure and customize your platform for their particular needs. So we embraced APIs. We embraced APIs first. In fact, every single feature that we deliver, the 750 features and capabilities, all start with an API. And this allows us to be able to customize and expand our platform. It allows our customers to be able to expand and customize our platform. It allows our partners to be able to expand and customize our platform. But it also does a couple other things for us. It allows us to build a microservices-oriented, microservices-driven, service-oriented architecture in our platform that allows for the kind of scalability and reliability and resilience that our customers demand. Really super, super important. A couple more bets we made. One we made was around automation. And when I think back to the days of over a decade ago, the standard for how you got translation done was you put your content in a Word document or a spreadsheet, you emailed it over to your LSP, and then you waited a few days, maybe even a few weeks to get that content back. And then your job was to put it in wherever it needed to go. That's a lot of work. It was super manual. It was super repetitive. And so we had a thesis that more and more platforms would allow us to be able to get that content out of the platforms, to pull that content into our translation management system, to automatically move it through workflows, to automatically leverage your translation memory, to automatically layer metadata like terminology and context and other metadata on top of it. And when the translation is complete, to automatically deploy it back. And there's no way in the world we would have had almost 1 trillion words of content automatically ingested into our platform last year. So that's another bet that I think was the right one. Collaboration. Once you have a cloud-based application, collaboration is a much easier application. I don't know about you, but the first time that I tried to use a Google Doc and I was typing on my word processor and someone else was typing on the same document, I thought, God, this is weird. I'm typing stuff and you're typing stuff, and how is this ever going to come together? And we're watching each other type. I think that's pretty weird. But now that's the standard. Everything we do at Smartling is through a Google Doc. You're probably the same, either through a Google Doc or Office 365. The kind of real-time visibility and real-time collaboration that you can get with this, I mean, it's just incredibly powerful when you have a cloud-based product. The final one that we bet on was machine translation. Now, I'm going to admit that this one probably snuck up on us a little bit. We always thought machine translation was going to get better and better, but I don't think we really truly realized, I don't think anybody realized the advent of neural, and that neural was going to create an incredible step function in the quality of machine translation. And we're seeing more and more customers embrace machine translation, not to replace human translation, but to supplement it. And we're seeing more and more of that, as you saw from the 370% year-over-year increase here. The quality of machine translation is getting better and better and better. And I think that's been an important part of what we've seen in the last decade. So those were the bets that we made. I think it's a pretty good track record. I think we got a lot right. I'm sure we got, many things wrong, but those were kind of the big bets that we made at Smartling over the last decade. And I'm incredibly proud of what we've built here. So let's talk a little bit more about what the future holds. If those were the bets that we made over the last decade, what might we expect in the next 3 to 5 years? What are the things that Smartling's thinking about? What are the things that we think the industry is thinking about? What are the things that you all are thinking about that you're going to be looking for in the future of translation? Well, the first one that I would point out is, unsurprisingly, machine translation. Again, machine translation will continue to be an incredibly disruptive force in this industry. But I think we're going to see a bit of a shift in machine translation. I think we're going to see things that are beyond the one size fits all, let's say Google Translate, or pick your favorite commercial off the shelf machine translation. I think we're going to move away from a one size fits all that is better than it used to be, but maybe isn't exactly on brand with your content. I think we're going to see things where you have commitments to privacy and security and reliability and SLAs on response time and performance. And I think that automatically the future enterprise grade machine translation will use your own corpus of content, your own translation memory, to be able to drive machine translation that is much more on brand and relevant to your company, your brand, your industry, your vertical. Automatically there. It's automatically going to incorporate your own preferred terminology into the machine translation. It's going to automatically obfuscate personally identifiable information as a part of that. I think we're going to see a real improvement in the quality of machine translation because it will be enterprise grade and will be specific to you and will automatically incorporate all of your translation memory. And every time a professional translator comes in and says, let me make an adjustment here, let me tweak this a little bit, the machine will continue to get smarter and smarter and learn from that. So we see more and more of this. And look, our customers are really embracing, well, I would say many of our customers are really embracing machine translation, and it is de facto part of their translation process. Again, not to replace human translation. I don't think that's going to happen for very long. I'm a big fan of humans and machines operating together. Many of you have heard me many times use the example of, the pilot and the autopilot. A typical commercial flight from New York to London, the pilot is going to have his or her hand on the yoke for about 6 minutes on takeoff and 6 minutes on landing. And the rest of the time, the machine is flying, the computer, the autopilot. Because frankly, the machine can fly better at altitude than a pilot hand flying. Pilots get tired, but you want that human in the loop. You want the human who's checking for emergencies and managing fuel and changing, route conditions and going around weather and dealing with crazy passengers. So the combination of human and machine is going to be really, really important. And we think an enterprise grade solution has a good combination between machine translation and human professional translation that allows customers to reach more people with more content that might not get translated otherwise. Look, machine translation is a form of machine learning, and machine learning falls under the umbrella of artificial intelligence. We see a world where there is a lot more artificial intelligence in the translation process, way beyond just machine translation. We see artificial intelligence being applied to how you connect to third-party platforms and how you self-heal those connections. We see artificial intelligence in understanding documents and document formats and making adjustments accordingly. We see artificial intelligence in optimizing the job creation and the capacity planning for how translation moves through workflows to different machines and human translators. We see artificial intelligence in the actual workflows involved, in how to best maintain your terminology and how to assess the overall quality of the translation. And look, you're seeing this in your everyday life. You're seeing artificial intelligence being applied to your routing and maps. You're seeing artificial intelligence applied on your favorite e-commerce site when it says, hey, you might like this product based on your prior purchase history and other data. You're seeing it on your phone. If you go to your phone and your photo library, gone are the days when you have to tag everything with what was in the photo. If you just search for a horse or an airplane or the beach, magically it's producing the images that you were looking for, even though you never said, this is a horse or this is the beach, this is an airplane. You don't have to do that. Artificial intelligence is making our lives easier and better. So let's let the machine do the things that the machines are really good at and the humans do the things that they're good at. We see more and more artificial intelligence being applied inside of the platform in a super interesting and unique way. One particular area that we think is really, really important is intelligent automation. When we started this business, the classic best practice workflow for translation was called TEP. Many of you probably remember it. Some of you probably even still use it. Translation, followed by an editor, followed by proofreading. That literally meant that every bit of content had 3 separate eyeballs looking at it. And in theory, by having 3 separate people, you could say, well, I think that's probably the quality that I'm looking for. But is that the right workflow for everything? It's more expensive. It's slower. Does it really guarantee quality on this? Maybe the best translator in the world by themselves might do a better job as a T-only workflow. Maybe T plus E is right. Maybe the machine is right. And the best localization manager in the world is going to have a difficult time finding the exact optimal automation, the exact optimal workflow at the exact right time for the project, the job, the file, even down to the segment level. It would be impossible for a human to do that. So we see a pretty exciting world around intelligent automation that can make really smart choices about the types of content that are being delivered to the platform, the complexity of that content. How long is the string or the segment? How many words are there? What's the length of those words? How much terminology is there? How many tags? What translation memory do you have available? What translators are available? How much terminology is available? What context is available? And as a result, what is the appropriate automation and the appropriate workflow intelligently that we should be using for this? We think that's pretty exciting. We think there's too much friction in the translation process today. Look, again, this is not as bad as emailing Word and spreadsheet documents over to your LSP from 10 years ago, but still, it's hard to hook up different connectors. It's hard to manage a term base or a glossary. It's hard to maintain your translation memory. It's hard to figure out who are the exact right resources for your translation. So we see a world where there is far less friction, where a lot of that becomes automated away. And through machine learning and through artificial intelligence, we can provide far less friction in that process. One of the really big trends that's happening right now is no code or low code. This is an industry that traditionally required a lot of software engineering and localization engineering to make anything talk to each other and to work through the various complexities of different file formats and so on. And we think there's a world where no code and low code is really what the world is looking for. It's not about how much pain you have in order to hook up your localization process. It's about how quickly can I solve my particular problem. And if I don't need to work directly with a software engineer or software developer or localization engineer in order to make this happen, and I can just plug it in and connect it together with some light configuration, we think that's a really pretty exciting world. So, I'm incredibly proud of the fact that Smartling has over a dozen connectors that are literally a no-code solution. You want to connect to this different platform, give it your API key, a username, and a password, and you're done. And our original product, our very original product from over a decade ago, was our Global Delivery Network, or our GDN. I talked about it earlier, our hosting infrastructure for our localized sites. 5 minutes of IT work pointing your web domain at our infrastructure, and you're done. And with no code or very low code, you can be up and running with a fully localized experience. It really is pretty incredible. The final thing that we see is that the standard commercial off-the-shelf, sort of like the one-size-fits-all TMS, probably isn't where the future needs to go. We need things that are more solution oriented. The tools and the data and the benchmark and the information specific for the marketing manager, specific for the developer, the engineer, the product manager, the localization manager, specific to the customer support manager, specific to the e-commerce manager. And when you can layer on top of that vertical specific or industry specific data and information, this becomes incredibly powerful. The right roles, the right tools, the right features, the right data, the right benchmarking for the specific roles right now. So that's the future that we see. We'd love your feedback on this. We think that's the exciting road ahead. We think this is going to be really great. At a minimum, we'd love for you to come back in 3 to 5 years and tell us whether we got this right or wrong. But you're going to be hearing a lot more today and in the next weeks and months of the things that we're building around this that we're really, really excited about. Some of them we'll be talking about today. Some of them we'll be announcing over the next weeks and months. I think it's really, really exciting. All right, coming back to today and present day, I would be remiss if I didn't briefly mention the situation in Ukraine. As many of you know, we do have several colleagues and team members, and certainly we have translators that we work with in Ukraine, and it's a really terrible situation. I want to be very clear that Smartling stands with Ukraine. We think this is a completely immoral and unjust conflict. We think it's incredibly unfair to the Ukrainian people, and I would encourage you to do whatever you can do on a personal level or at a company level to support the good people of Ukraine. One very small thing that Smartling is doing. Look, we're managing to take care of our business and balancing that with taking care of our people. And I think we've done a pretty good job of putting that together right now. One very small thing I want to call out is on smartling.org, not smartling.com. We recently launched an initiative. We've had a lot of people who are in Ukraine or on the Polish border dealing with the conflict or the refugee crisis. And they're saying, hey, I need translation help. And we've had a lot of other people saying, hey, I can translate, or I work for an LSP that can translate into English, Ukrainian, Polish, Russian. How can I help? And so this is a really simple matchmaking form that if you are in the conflict zone, if you're part of the refugee crisis, if you need some support, or if you can volunteer your time with this and help with this, it would be very much appreciated. Thank you. All right, one last thing on a personal note. I've been Smartling's CEO since day one. 12 years ago, I started this company out of my home when we were a brand new baby startup. I've led this company through our awkward teenage years, all the way through becoming a full-fledged, grown-up company, culminating in our fundraise with Battery of $160 million last year. It has been my privilege and my honor to be the CEO of Smartling. And frankly, not many founding CEOs last for 12 years at venture-backed and private equity-backed companies. And like any journey, sometimes there is a time for a transition. And today is the day that I'm announcing that I'm actually transitioning out of the role of CEO, but I still have a lot to give to this company, and I'm going to be the Smartling president. We're announcing that today. I'm going to help to build many of the things that I just talked about in the future of translation and the road ahead. And I'm really, really excited about it. I'm incredibly thankful for all of the incredible Smartling employees, the best and brightest people in the world. I'm thankful to all of you, our customers, our partners, and our translators. You've provided incredible support over the years. What this also means is that we've got a new guy. And so I want to introduce you to the new guy. His name is Brian Murphy. He was an operating partner at Battery. I've been working with him for several months now and have gotten to know him. I like him. I'm really excited about partnering with Brian. And with that, I am going to introduce Brian Murphy. Thank you very much. Brian, come